Welcome back to Academia Explained Badly, the only place on the internet that reads dusty 80-year-old self-help monoliths so you can stop your brain from operating like a corrupted Windows 95 software disk. In Part 1, we hacked into Dale Carnegie's 1948 psychological blockbuster, How to Stop Worrying and Start Living, and built a mental submarine to isolate our existential dread into 24-hour watertight compartments. We learned the air conditioner formula. But let's be entirely honest with ourselves. What happens when a problem hits you that is so messy, so deeply chaotic, that a simple 3-step mental reset isn't enough to stop your internal organs from trying to digest themselves? Today, we are diving straight into Part 2, Basic Techniques in Analyzing Worry. We are breaking down Chapters 4 and 5 into a brutal, bulletproof data processing system that will eliminate up to 90% of your anxiety by turning your brain into a cold, calculating supercomputer. Grab your notebook, hit delete on your feelings for the next few minutes, and let's get into the mechanics. Welcome kicks off this section by summoning the literal ghost of Rudyard Kipling, quoting his famous lines, "I keep 6 honest serving men. They taught me all I knew. Their names are what and why and when and how and where and who." Now, why are we talking about 19th century poetry? Because Carnegie notes that the moment your garbage roommate of a brain faces a massive issue, it rejects these 6 honest men immediately. Instead, it hires a bunch of unhinged, emotional mercenaries to run around screaming in your skull. Will the magic air conditioner formula fix every single problem in your life? No, of course not. That's why you need to equip yourself with the absolute bedrock of problem analysis. The 3 ancient steps used by everyone from Aristotle to modern data scientists. Step 1, get the facts. Step 2, analyze the facts. Step 3, arrive at a decision, and then act on that decision. This sounds painfully obvious, right? Get the facts. Brilliant advice, Dale. Thanks. But wait, why do we almost never actually do it? Carnegie introduces us to the late Herbert E. Hawks, who was the dean of Columbia College for 22 years. This man personally helped over 200,000 students solve their existential crises, and he noticed a terrifying pattern. He dropped a truth bomb that belongs in a museum. Confusion is the chief cause of worry. Dean Hawks pointed out that half the worry in the world is caused by people trying to make monumental life decisions before they have a single ounce of actual knowledge to base those decisions on. If you don't have the cold, hard facts, all your brain can do is stew around in an anxious soup of pure confusion. Think about how you handle a crisis right now. If you have a terrifying meeting or a problem that you have to face at 3 o'clock next Tuesday, what does your brain do on Thursday night? It stays awake until 4 o'clock a.m., running simulated nightmare scenarios. It panics. It sweats. Dean Hawks had a completely different protocol. He said, "If I have a problem to face next Tuesday, I refuse to even try to make a decision about it until next Tuesday arrives. In the meantime, I completely banish anxiety. I don't lose a single minute of sleep. Instead, I concentrate entirely on gathering every single objective piece of data related to the problem." And what happens by the time Tuesday rolls around? Because he spent his energy collecting clean facts instead of marinating in emotional panic, the problem almost always solves itself. Worry evaporates in the light of raw knowledge, the exact same way ice melts in the sun. But let's talk about why gathering facts is a psychological nightmare for human beings. Thomas Edison once said in complete seriousness, "There is no expedient to which a man will not resort to avoid the real labor of thinking." When we are anxious, we don't look for objective facts. We act like elite hunting dogs, searching exclusively for information that confirms what we already fear, or what we already want to believe. We completely ignore everything else. As the French philosopher André Marwas put it, everything that is in agreement with our personal desires seems true. Everything that is not puts us into a rage. Imagine trying to solve a simple second-grade math problem, but you keep aggressively insisting to the teacher that 2 + 2 = 5. You would fail miserably. Yet millions of people make their daily lives an absolute psychological hell because they are running around asserting that their emotional anxieties mean 2 + 2 = 5,000. To stop this data corruption, Carnegie gives us 2 brilliant mental hacks to keep your toxic emotions completely out of your processing unit. Hack number 1. When you are collecting facts about your problem, pretend you are not doing it for yourself at all. Pretend you are an impartial private investigator hired by someone else to gather raw evidence. This instantly detaches your ego and forces you to look at the evidence with cold, unfeeling eyes. Hack number 2. Pretend you are a ruthless defense lawyer who has been hired to argue the exact opposite side of your issue. Force yourself to find every single piece of evidence that damages your own wishes, hurts your pride, and strikes down your preconceived prejudices. Write down both sides of the case on a blank piece of paper. The moment you do this, you will realize that the terrifying monster you were worrying about doesn't exist. The actual truth lies quietly somewhere right in the boring middle. Neither you, nor I, nor Albert Einstein, nor the Supreme Court of the United States is brilliant enough to reach an intelligent decision on any life crisis without first collecting the facts. Thomas Edison understood this to a manic degree. When he died, he left behind 2,500 notebooks packed entirely with raw, unvarnished facts about the problems he was trying to solve. But getting the facts is only step 1. Carnegie notes that storing data in your head is useless. You have to write it down. Why? Because as the legendary engineer Charles Kettering put it, a problem well stated is a problem half solved. To show you how this works when your life is literally on the line, Carnegie introduces us to an American businessman named Galen Litchfield. In 1942, Litchfield was the manager of the Asia Life Insurance Company in Shanghai, right when the Japanese military invaded the city. The Japanese military sent an admiral to liquidate the company's assets. Litchfield had to cooperate or face immediate execution. But Litchfield made a dangerous choice. He hid a massive block of securities worth $750,000 because they belonged to the Hong Kong branch, not Shanghai. On a Sunday afternoon, Litchfield found out the admiral discovered the hidden wealth, flew into a homicidal rage, called him a traitor, and scheduled him to be thrown into the bridge house the very next morning. The bridge house was the notorious torture chamber of the Japanese Gestapo. Litchfield had close friends who had committed suicide rather than be taken there. To show if your brain was the garbage roommate in this situation, you would be hyperventilating, pacing the floor, and crying until your eyes bled. But Litchfield had a structured data protocol. He went straight to his room at the Shanghai YMCA, sat down at his typewriter, and typed out 2 specific questions. He typed the answer rawly. I am terrified I will be thrown into the bridge house tomorrow morning. Then he typed question 2. What can I do about it? Instead of spinning in circles, he spent hours logically mapping out the only 4 real courses of action available to him on planet Earth, alongside their exact mathematical consequences. Now, option 1. Try to explain to the admiral. Consequence? The admiral doesn't speak English. Trying to use an interpreter might just make him angrier and guarantee death. Option 2. Try to escape. Consequence? The military tracks him constantly. He'd be captured and shot on sight. Option 3. Hide in his room and refuse to go to work. Consequence? The admiral will get suspicious, send armed soldiers, and drag him to the torture chamber without giving him a chance to say a single word. Option 4. Walk right into the office on Monday morning like absolutely nothing is wrong. Consequence? The admiral might be too busy to notice him. Even if he does notice, he might have cooled down. This gives Litchfield 2 solid statistical chances to survive. The moment Litchfield looked at the data and picked option 4, a wave of complete peace washed over him. He slept like a baby on Sunday night. On Monday morning, he walked into the office. The Japanese admiral was sitting there with a cigarette dangling out of his mouth. He looked up, glared at Litchfield with pure hatred, and said absolutely nothing. 6 weeks later, that admiral was reassigned back to Tokyo. Litchfield's life was saved entirely because he chose to process facts on paper instead of panic in his head. Litchfield later noted that 50% of your anxiety vanishes the absolute second you make a clear, unyielding decision based on facts. Another 40% vanishes the moment you start executing that decision. You can banish 90% of your problems by simply picking a path and moving forward. Now, let's step directly into Chapter 5, How to Eliminate 50% of Your Business Worries. If you work in a corporate office, run a business, or manage projects, you are probably saying, "Bro, my industry is way too complex for a simple layout. Nobody can cut my business anxiety in half." Fair enough. Let's look at a real historical executive who did exactly that. Meet Leon Shimkin, the legendary general manager and partner of Simon & Schuster, one of the biggest publishing houses in human history. For 15 years, Leon spent half of every single business day locked in miserable corporate conferences. His team would sit around a table for hours, twisting in their chairs, walking the floor, arguing in circles, reciting every single thing that had gone completely wrong, and ending their rants by looking at him and asking, "What should we do?" Leon went home every night completely physically and mentally destroyed. Leon made a radical new corporate rule. He announced that nobody was allowed to bring a problem to his office or present an issue in a meeting unless they first prepared a one-page memorandum that clearly answered 4 strict questions. Question 1. What is the exact problem? This stopped people from venting for 2 hours about vague troubles without defining the actual mechanical fault. Question 2. What is the root cause of the problem? This forced them to find the actual structural origins instead of just complaining about symptoms. Question 3. What are all possible solutions? No more shouting matches. They had to list out every viable alternative on paper. Question 4. What solution do you personally suggest? Do you know what happened after Leon instituted this rule? His team almost completely stopped coming to his office. Why? Because they realized that to answer those 4 questions, they actually had to find the facts and think. And once they did that, the perfect solution popped right out of the data, like a piece of crisp toast popping out of an electric toaster. If you think this only applies to executive boardrooms, look at Frank Bettger, who used this exact data analysis to become one of the highest-earning life insurance salesmen in America. When Frank started out, he was a miserable failure. He was working 12-hour days, making hundreds of cold calls, but he couldn't close the deals. He was ready to quit. One Saturday morning, he sat down to look at the cold facts. He opened up his logbook for the last 12 months and counted up the numbers. He made an astounding, undeniable discovery. Exactly 70% of his sales had been closed on the very first meeting. 23% were closed on the second meeting, and a pathetic, miserable 7% of his sales came from the third, fourth, and fifth follow-up calls. This meant Frank was wasting half of his entire working day chasing down dead ends that were only responsible for 7% of his income. He immediately cut out all visits beyond the second interview and spent that extra time finding fresh prospects. His income instantly doubled, and his anxiety dropped to absolute zero. Let's summarize Part 2 of this classic breakdown into 4 ironclad rules you can use to upgrade your internal operating system today. Rule 1. Stop trying to make decisions in a cloud of emotional confusion. Isolate your feelings, gather the raw facts like a cynical third-party investigator, and remember that half the worry in the world is just data starvation. Rule 2. Put your problems on a physical piece of paper. State the problem clearly, because a problem well stated is already half solved. Rule 3. Answer the 4 magic questions. What is the problem? What caused it? What are the solutions? And what are you going to do about it? Rule 4. Once you choose a path, hit the execution key. Shut down your self-doubt, don't look back over your shoulder, and dismiss all anxiety about the outcome. Carnegie leaves us with one hilarious practical tip to turn this into a habit. Give your spouse or your best friend $1 every single time they catch you violating these rules and worrying about something outside your control. They will completely bankrupt you within a week, which is an excellent economic incentive to keep your brain operating in its watertight compartment. In Part 3, we are going to dive into the data charts, showing you how to completely crowd worry out of your mind using high-occupancy activities. Hit that subscribe button right now so your garbage roommate brain doesn't panic about missing the next upload. Leave a comment detailing the exact problem you are going to put into a spreadsheet tonight, and I will see you in the next compartment.